How you doing, everyone? Welcome back. Penelope decided to join me for this video. Yeah, all right. The title on this one, it's a little bit clickbaity, but it's all right. I mean, I'm going to get the point across on this, right? Screw the homeless veterans. Screw them. Yeah, that's the title of this video, and the reason for that is because, you know what? Quite frankly, I get sick and damn tired of hearing people bring up homeless veterans every time there is, something that we can or should be doing. And they're like, well, we can't do that because we have homeless veterans. Okay, well, I'm telling you from experience, I am a veteran and I have been homeless. So I know the homeless veteran thing, right? I know it firsthand. And I assure you, the same people who are saying that, they don't give a damn about homeless veterans. It's the same thing. To them, a homeless veteran is no different than somebody who is homeless uh, because of mental health or because of addictions. And actually, that's kind of an interesting thing here. Do addictions feed homelessness, or does homelessness feed addictions? And I'm thinking that it probably goes both ways. I don't have hard data on that, though. But yeah, I mean, the other day I did a video about SNAP benefits being cut off, right? And I think that that is a cruel and unnecessary thing to do, because we have people who rely on that. I mean, I'm talking working people who rely on those benefits to feed their families. Okay, I get it. If you can't feed them, don't breed them, right? Well, situations change, right? Situations change. How do you think we end up with homeless veterans? Situations change. That's how. I was in the Army, right? I got out of the Army, and now I don't have a job and nowhere to go. I'm homeless, right? But it's my fault, right? Well, yeah, to a certain extent, maybe a little bit, my personal situation, but no. There are people who, through no fault of their own, will lose a job and can't afford to live in their homes anymore. They have no choice. They get evicted, or they can't make their mortgage payment, so their house gets foreclosed. Uh, Things happen, right? And in the richest country in the world, the idea that we can't take care of our own is just appalling, right? And I don't care if that's, this person over here on SNAP, our senior citizens, our senior citizens, we need to take care of them. You know why? Because they spent their entire lives working and paying into this system. Maybe they ought to get a little return on their investment instead of just this paltry little whatever, social security check that they might get, that doesn't cover their bills. We have senior citizens who have to choose between food and medicine or paying their bills. Which one do you prioritize? I mean, there is no reason that medical debt should be a thing in this country. It's not a thing in other developed countries. There's no reason it should be a thing here. I mean, for medical debt to cause people to, well, I don't know why she's doing this. She is too big for this, but but yeah, for medical debt to be the reason that some people lose everything is appalling. It's disgusting. There's no excuse for it. But I guess it's your own fault for getting sick or for getting hurt, right? Well, you shouldn't have gotten that disease. You shouldn't have gotten pneumonia and been laid up in the hospital for a few days for it. Or, you shouldn't have needed that back surgery. If you'd have done things differently when you were young, maybe, you wouldn't need knee replacements when you're old. But yet, these same people, right? We have no problem looking down, right? Let's look down at these people over here, right? Oh, well, these people that they're using an EBT card to buy their groceries. Therefore, they're the problem. No, the problem is that they're in that situation to begin with. Instead of kicking them while they're down, let's try to help them get back up. And if we're really going to look at the cause of our problems, it's not the people below us, that's for sure. It's not the people over here, it's not the people over there, it's not the ones that are not as well off as we are. We need to look up. Yeah, let's look at that billionaire class. They have no problem gaming the system and then telling you that it's your fault. Or telling you that, hey, you know what? Look at these people over here. Look at the shiny object. We can build this gilded ballroom, demolish part of the White House to build a ballroom that nobody wants. But yeah, these hungry people, let them starve. Those homeless people, it's their own fault. They can stay on the streets. Or we're just going to arrest them and throw them in jail. Yeah. So, yeah, we have things very backwards here, right? People in this country are fond of saying that this is the greatest country that has ever existed. And at one point in time, that was true. That was true at one point in time. And it can be true again. It can be true again. But not in the direction that we're going now. Not in the direction we're going now. We're never going to achieve greatness by impoverishing more and more of our citizens, by eliminating the least among us instead of helping them. When people need a hand up, reach down and pull them up. Don't kick them while they're down. We can shelter our homeless. We can feed our hungry. I mean, have you ever filled out a job application and one of the questions is, it asks if you've received any kind of government assistance within the past however amount of time? Do you know why they ask that question? Because companies actually receive tax benefits for hiring people who are on government assistance. And yet, some of them, let's take Walmart for example, biggest retailer certainly in the United States, maybe in the world, I'm not 100% sure on that, but definitely the biggest retailer in the United States. Walmart, they hire people who are on assistance and then don't pay them a wage so that they can get off of that assistance. Yeah, they pay them a low wage so that they hire people, pay them not enough to get them off of assistance, and then they get the kickbacks from, they get the tax incentives for hiring these people, and then they keep the wages low, and then when they spend their SNAP benefits there, they're receiving that money too. And Walmart isn't the only one, it's just the one that everybody knows. That's just the one name that everybody knows. And they're not alone. They're just the biggest one. A multi-billion-dollar corporation. Can't pay people a decent wage, a living wage, right? I mean, the reason that we have so many people receiving SNAP is because our wages are not keeping up. I mean, the federal minimum wage in 2025 is $7.25 an hour. $7.25. Even back in the day when that became the minimum wage, that's been the minimum wage for at least a decade. Actually, it's been longer than a decade. Yeah, it's been probably 15 years now that that's been the minimum wage. And back then you were scraping to get by, right? You could do it, but you were scraping. These days, you could double that minimum wage and you're still below the poverty line. Yeah, still below the poverty line if you double today's minimum wage. A few years ago there was the whole fight for 15. Raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Well, these days it needs to be more than that. Really, I mean, there is no place in this country that a single person can get a one-bedroom apartment, pay their utilities, feed themselves, pay everything that needs to be paid, just basic expenses, and get by. You just can't do it. And the question is, why? And then people like to say, well, just go get another job. Okay, great. So you go get another job. You're still scraping. You can't get by, right? A lot of companies don't want to hire full-time. They want you to work part-time. Because that way, they don't have to pay benefits. In fact, I had someone in my comments on one of my videos mention where they live in Oklahoma. It is not uncommon for that area of Oklahoma. I mean, the jobs pay like $8 or $9 an hour, right? And they're not full time. And some weeks you're only going to get a few hours. What are those people supposed to do? What are they supposed to do? And let's not forget that poverty leads to crime. So maybe looking out for our own. You've heard the phrase that a rising tide lifts all boats, right? Well, that's true if somebody didn't shoot holes in the bottom of your boat, right? And that's what those at the top are doing. They're shooting holes into our boats. Meanwhile, they just keep getting richer and richer, and the people at the bottom keep getting poorer and poorer, and those in the middle, if they're lucky, they're staying about the same. But a lot of them are actually falling as well. So, you know what? I am tired of the excuses. I'm tired of people saying, well, we can't afford this, 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 or this. But yet, we can afford to have all these billionaires who don't pay taxes, right? We can afford for them not to pay taxes, because trickle down has worked so well over the years, hasn't it? 1980, Reagan brought that up. And, okay, I get it. You fell for it in the 80s. I get it. It actually sounds like a good theory. Hey, you know what? If we give them tax breaks, they're going to have more money to invest into their businesses, and then they're going to be able to hire more people at better wages. Sounds great. Didn't work that way. And for 45 years, it hasn't worked that way. Every time they tell us that that's what they're going to do, it doesn't work. And yet, some of us keep falling for it over and over again. And, it just doesn't get any better, does it? So stop scapegoating people, right? Stop scapegoating your neighbors, or those people over in that part of town. Those people over there, they're not the problem. They don't have the power to hurt you. It's the people at the top. It is the people at the top. They want to keep us under their boot. Keep that boot right on your throat. That's exactly what they're doing. And they're going to keep doing that as long as we allow it. So, yeah, when I say screw the homeless veterans, I don't really mean screw the homeless veterans. What I mean is, let's drop that stupid talking point, because those who say it, they don't really mean that, well, that we can't do anything because we have homeless veterans, because they don't want to do anything to help the homeless veterans either. So, anyway, I'll see you next time.